The night was humid, the kind where sweat sticks to your skin even when the air cools. I stood in the dim glow of the parking lot lamps, my newborn pressed against my chest, wrapped in a thin blanket that was damp from her tears and mine. My parents' car sat idling just a few feet away, trunk stuffed with my sister's bags, the back seat piled with her things, makeup kits, designer shopping bags, and a stroller meant for her dog. I thought there'd be room for me. I thought, maybe just this once, they'd clear a space. "Mom, Dad, please," I said, my voice shaking. My baby let out a weak cry, her tiny hand clutching my shirt. "She needs to get home. I need to get her out of this heat." Dad didn't even turn his head at first. He was laughing at something Emily had said in the passenger seat. Then he leaned across the steering wheel, smirking at me through the open window. His words hit like a slap. "There's no room for trash in this car. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video." My throat closed. "I'm not trash. She's your granddaughter." Mom cut me off sharply, her voice like cold metal. "You had your chance. You made your choices. We're not rearranging our lives for you. Emily needs her space." From the passenger seat, Emily smirked, her freshly manicured nails tapping on her phone. "Maybe she can sleep out here. Better than the dump she calls an apartment." She turned her camera on me, framing me like a joke, my newborn clinging to me in the yellow parking lot light. I begged. I swallowed every ounce of pride I had left and begged. "Please, just this once, for her, not me." Dad revved the engine, grinning. "You want a ride? Earn it. Crawl." His laughter echoed in the lot as my baby whimpered louder. Tears blurred my eyes. "How could you do this? I'm your daughter." His voice rose, cruel and final. "No, she's my daughter." He nodded at Emily, who smirked as if she'd just won a crown. The car lurched forward. For a second, I thought they'd stop, that this was just another twisted game, but they didn't. They drove off, tail lights glowing red, their laughter trailing after them until it was swallowed by the night. The silence that followed was worse than their words. Just me, my baby, and the empty parking lot. I sank onto the curb, clutching her against my chest. Her small body shook with tiny cries, and I rocked her, whispering, "I've got you. I swear I've got you." My voice cracked, but I kept saying it because she deserved one promise I wouldn't break. People walked past, strangers, busy with their own lives. Some glanced at me, pity flickering in their eyes, but no one stopped. I was invisible, forgotten, just like they always wanted me to be. I sat there for hours, the asphalt digging into my legs, the weight of humiliation pressing down heavier than the night heat. Every car that drove by, every set of headlights that swept across the lot, I prayed it was them coming back. But deep down, I knew better. They weren't coming back. They never would. And in that moment, something in me hardened. I pressed a kiss to my baby's damp forehead and whispered, "They think we're trash. They think we're nothing." My chest burned with a fury I had never felt before. But one day, they'll choke on their own words. Because I realized then, being stranded wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The night they left me in that parking lot was the night I stopped waiting for their love and started planning how to take back my worth, and how to take away everything they thought was theirs to laugh about. The next morning, the heat had broken, but the anger in my chest hadn't. My newborn stirred against me as I walked back to the small, crumbling apartment I'd been renting on the edge of town. I had carried her through the night, feet blistered, arms aching, but I refused to stop. Every step was powered by the words Dad spat at me, trash. Every echo of their laughter was fuel. Inside the apartment, the walls peeled and the ceiling leaked, but at least it was ours. I laid my baby gently in the thrift store crib and sat on the floor. I thought I'd cry again, break down until I was empty, but no tears came. Only silence, only fire. I scrolled through my phone. Emily's post was already up, a filtered picture of her in the passenger seat of my parents' car, their luggage piled high, Mom leaning in with a grin. The caption read, Family road trip with the best parents ever #spoiled #blessed. I read the comments, people gushing, praising her for being so close with her family. My stomach twisted, but instead of despair, I felt my jaw tighten. They had rewritten reality. They wanted the world to see them as generous, loving, perfect. They left me in the parking lot with a newborn and then had the audacity to brag about being the best parents ever. That was the moment I knew revenge wouldn't be loud or quick. It couldn't be. If I screamed now, no one would believe me. They were too good at spinning their story. No, my revenge had to be built brick by brick, patient and devastating. So I started working. I called the diner 2 blocks over and begged for shifts. The manager, an older woman with a raspy voice, eyed me suspiciously, then nodded. Mornings are dead. I'll give you a chance. Don't screw it up. I strapped my baby to my chest with a sling and wiped tables until my arms burned. Customers gave me looks, some sympathetic, some judgmental, but I ignored them. Every tip, no matter how small, went into a jar I hid in the back of the pantry. Every shift I pulled meant diapers, formula, and a few more dollars toward the future I was building, not just for me, but for her. At night, when she finally slept, I studied. I learned how money worked, how small debts snowballed, how businesses thrived or failed. I read articles about reputation, how quickly it could crumble when the truth was revealed, and all the while I watched my family online. Emily flaunted everything: designer bags, weekends in spas, dinners where mom posed with wine glasses and dad raised a toast to family. Every post dripped with the lie that they were happy, whole, and untouchable. But what they didn't know was that I was collecting every slip, every careless word, every background detail. In one video, Dad bragged loudly to a friend about under-the-table deals, thinking no one was listening. In another, Mom ranted on a phone call, her voice sharp. "We don't waste our money on losers, only Emily matters." Emily laughed and uploaded it as a funny family moment. Her followers ate it up. To me, it was evidence. The more I gathered, the more I saw the cracks forming. They weren't as flawless as they thought. They were sloppy, arrogant, careless, and I would be the one to use it all. Still, revenge wasn't only about evidence. It was about becoming strong enough to carry it out, and I knew I couldn't do it if I stayed small. So I kept grinding. I picked up extra shifts, babysat for neighbors, even took night classes when the diner tips were enough to cover childcare. It wasn't glamorous, but every step made me sharper, stronger, less like the girl begging in the parking lot and more like someone who could strike back. Years passed and my daughter grew. She learned to walk, then to run, her laugh filling the apartment like sunlight. She never knew the humiliation of that night because I refused to let it stain her. But I never forgot. Every birthday of hers that my parents skipped, every holiday they flaunted with Emily instead of us, every post where they smiled like saints, I remembered. And with every memory, the fire grew. I wasn't waiting for their apology anymore. I wasn't waiting for them to notice me. I was building something far worse for them, a day when they would look around and realize that the daughter they called trash had quietly dismantled everything they loved. And when that day came, they wouldn't laugh. They would beg. The day it ended wasn't one dramatic moment with shouting and cameras. It was a long, cold morning in an office I'd fought my way into. I'd spent years doing the slow work, saving, learning how nonprofits and boards actually ran, making contacts with reporters and a compliance officer at the State Charity Commission who owed me a favor after I'd helped her niece get an internship. I had every scrap of their quiet arrogance cataloged: the videos where Mom joked about buying influence, the voicemail where Dad bragged about writing off family vacations as donations, the receipts Emily tossed into the trash after a shopping spree. None of it was stolen or illegal on its face, but together it painted a pattern, a charity that existed to polish their name while donors' money quietly disappeared into luxury weekends and personal purchases. I delivered the files carefully. I didn't show them to strangers on social media. I showed them to people who made institutions act. The Charity Commission opened a compliance inquiry. A local investigative reporter I'd befriended ran a story with the documents and the interviews I arranged with former volunteers who'd been sidelined. The donors I'd quietly contacted, the same people who'd always answered Mom's calls, asked for audits. Contracts were reviewed. Board seats were frozen. Sponsors pulled plaques weeks before a gala Mom had planned to celebrate family philanthropy. It stung to do it that way, cold and legal, because it felt clinical. No one screamed at my feet in the parking lot. But the clinical bite was what hurt the most. Reputation is paper thin when official pages start listing irregularities. Invitations that once opened doors were returned with clerk's notes. The charity's big fundraiser, the one where Mom always posed under chandeliers, collapsed into a small dinner between embarrassed trustees. Her name was removed from the donor wall for the first time. Dad's business contacts started returning calls with disclaimers. Emily's sponsored posts? Brands began to whisper and then to unfollow. While institutions closed in, I did something else. I bought what they'd loved most, honestly and without the theatrics of revenge. Property that had been used as collateral in a small, unnoticed loan was foreclosed on after a lender lawsuit I'd quietly backed. I was the highest bidder at the trustee sale. Jewelry Emily thought family heirlooms quietly appeared at estate auctions I attended under an LLC I'd registered. I paid fair prices. I didn't cut corners. I made sure every bill was paid, every transfer legal. The newspapers covered the charity audit and the trustee sale back to back. The headlines were polite, clinical, and devastating. They called it a restructuring. Our neighbors called it karma. Then I turned their things into oxygen. The house with the wraparound porch, the symbol of their social life, became a community resource center under my name, run by staff I hired who actually understood the burden of being left behind. Those designer bags Emily loved were donated to a program that trained young women in sewing and small business skills. The proceeds funded microgrants for girls paying their way through school. The car Dad polished every Sunday appeared at a benefit auction and raised funds for the shelter I worked with. I made sure press releases noted provenance, donated from the estate of family name, previously used to fund personal travel. It read like somebody had written a footnote to their arrogance. People noticed. Sponsors who'd once queued to be seen with Mom now declined with formal letters. The charity's board invited her to a meeting to explain herself, and she had to answer questions in front of professionals who cared about audits more than applause. Dad's circle shrank to men who preferred golf to gossip. Emily's follower count dipped when brands quietly blacklisted her for association with the scandal. Her glossy posts carried fewer tags and fewer offers. She still had followers, but the invitations to events stopped arriving the way they used to. She tried to rebuild with petty posts, but it was hollow. The people who mattered in her world were already gone. I didn't stand in their front yard and scream. I walked past it once, years later, with my daughter in a backpack, and Dad was there on the porch, a newspaper folded under his arm. He looked up as I passed. For the first time, his eyes searched my face and didn't find the frightened girl he'd left in a parking lot. He swallowed a sentence and let it die. Mom tried to call my name from the kitchen window and then remembered there was nowhere to invite me back to. Emily's smirk was smaller now, and the camera in her hand felt like a toy. They had each other thin consolation, but the things that fed their illusion were repurposed into something that fed people who needed it. When someone asked me why I'd done it, why I'd taken their everything and given it away, I gave the simplest answer I could find. They thought we were trash. I turned their trash into a place that keeps kids from being stranded. That line was not a gloat. It was a promise kept to the 16-year-old on the terminal floor and to the small girl who would never know the taste of abandonment I'd known. Revenge for me wasn't fireworks or a viral moment. It was slow, thorough, and surgical. It removed the foundations of what they'd built on cruelty, a reputation bought with false smiles and charity galas. I didn't want them humiliated in a single messy spectacle. I wanted them irrelevant, so arrogance could no longer be a currency. And when sponsors, neighbors, and local leaders stopped returning their calls, their laughter finally stopped too. I opened the center doors on a rainy Tuesday. Kids filed in with backpacks bigger than their faces, and one little boy tugged my sleeve and asked if we had snacks. I knelt down, handed him an orange, and he smiled with the kind of small, fierce gratitude that erased every sleepless night on the parking lot curb. That moment, not the headlines, not the trustee sales, not the legal notices, was the revenge I wanted. They had laughed at me in a car that night. I made sure there was a place where laughter lifted rather than crushed. When I look back now, I don't find joy in their ruin. I find the kind of quiet justice that keeps doors open for the kids who need them. I chose to take what they loved and make it useful. They learned what it felt like to be left with the truth. I learned how to build something that would never leave a child stranded again. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.